ever City goal for Marc Guehi, and the Blues have got through, and they will be in that 5th round draw on Monday. They've beaten Salford by 2-0. Let's go back to the studio and we can join Liam.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ali. Man City 2, Salford 0. Wasn't as many fireworks as the last round, but we're into the 5th round. Marc Guehi with his first City goal. I'm going to have to start with Ryan McInerney. I thought he was absolutely fantastic since coming on. Ben, what did you make of his performance?
Really positive, which I think all you can ask from a young player. He has that, that freshness where when he receives the ball, he wants to be aggressive, he wants to get the full back, he wants to make things happen, which was really nice. I think what will really please the manager was he had 2 or 3 incidents where he lost the ball and he was really mature the way he responded. Once I think he gave away a foul, but stopped the counter-attack. Another time, like, there was an immediate counter-press to win the ball back. I know that's something everyone's done a lot of work with Ryan in terms of, like, the moment you lose the ball is probably the most important moment in the game for you. So, yeah, some mature actions without the ball, and with the ball I thought really exciting. Maybe a little bit unlucky not to get a goal or an assist, but positive, built on that last performance against Exeter, and I think he's certainly showing people that that he could have a future at this level.
High energy, pressing really well. Do you think he'll be pleased to come off this? He'll be pleased with his performance?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously you love the idea of goals and assists in his position, especially in a game like this. But I think what he's shown in the 2 performances so far is that he's capable of wearing the shirt. He's shown a confidence in this arena. He's shown that he can feel like he belongs to a certain extent. So yeah, granted he's only played against so-called lesser lower league sides to this point, but it's been a really positive first 2 appearances, I think.
Like proving he belongs almost.
Yeah, I think it's much for yourself. I think, to be fair to the boys these days, most of them have that inner confidence. Whereas, I think a few years back you would definitely have had big nerves about this moment. But yeah, I think he's shown that he can live at this level, and he trains with the boys a lot, so he knows he can feel comfortable in and around that environment. So yeah, I think he'll be really pleased. I think confidence will be high. I think the manager will be pleased with him, but also probably won't tell him that too much, knowing the boss. So yeah, big positive, and hopefully he can, depending on what happens in the next round, he can hopefully be in and around it, because I know that Savi's nearly back, and Jeremy's not that far off. So obviously that'll be interesting to see what that does to Ryan's sort of position in the squad.
Stephen, you went for a more conservative 4-0 prediction.
Yes.
Only 2. What did you make of the performance?
It was okay. It wasn't a great performance. There's no point sitting there pretending otherwise. But not every game like this goes to plan. Salford last time out was that we scored 8 goals against them. I think it was very unlikely we were ever going to repeat that again, because they don't want that. There was I wouldn't say it was a humiliation, but it was definitely a difficult day from that at that time. And they came up today and we were sat watching, and Ben was pointing out that that often Salford was 6 at the back, and they were so compact, they were so organised, and they did their job excellently, and they probably feel maybe a little bit disappointed that they didn't get a goal or even come away with something from this game. It could easily be extra time now, and it wasn't a great performance today, but you've got to keep plugging at it, keep trying to find a way, keep making the pitch big. And the first goal, of course, scrappy. The second goal, they've earned the chance for Guehi there, and they were ultimately the better team on the day, and they're through to the next round. And right now, you just want to keep progressing through the rounds of each competition. I think the best way for all these new players to learn about what the standards are at Manchester City is to play in games like this, where you are expected to score several goals, and if you don't, that's a drop in standards, because this team is still so new compared to where it's been. And they have to learn what it's like to be. So many of these players have to learn what it's like to be a City side that's expected to score several goals. And I think today overall was a learning experience, but we're still through and we won, so it's all good.
Talking of learning experience, you said about the academy, they're winning games all the time. To come here and play against a back 6, midfield so deep, so compact, is that such a key learning point for some of the academy boys, because they won't get that in academy football almost?
On one hand, yeah. On the other hand, they do get experience of that, just because. And on a similar note, a lot of the teams will come to City in academy football and set up in a similar way. So I'd say they've actually got reasonably good experience of doing that. So yeah, but it's a different kettle of fish doing it on a training pitch, you know, compared to doing it here at the Etihad. And yeah, one of the beauties of this football club is that, you know, we would coach very similar to the boss in terms of how to try and go about breaking down like the back six, a low block, what disciplines you need, and how you try to hurt the opposition, etc. So. Yeah, it's not easy, but it comes with the shirt really in terms of the what's required.
Working with Pep and coming up against situations, problems like that, what would he say to the players, to the team, in terms of breaking that down and countering that?
Yeah, I think he'd be really clear on depending on how the opposition was set up. You know, in that low block, there would be space somewhere. So I think today probably the space was on the outside predominantly. So then it's a case of showing real patience, holding your positions, trying to connect with both wingers as much as you can, so you shift the opposition back line, lots of forward runs in behind the back line. And in most occasions, if you can limit the transitions and literally suffocate a team, the longer the game goes on and the more you make them shift across and have to run, you know, jump forward, drop in, it becomes incredibly tiring. So, you know, and probably the case today, actually, we probably created as much in the last 15, 20 minutes as we did in the previous 70, 75. I haven't got the stats, but that's probably, Salford are doing all right in their league. They won't have had any performances like that this season, where they've been so low for the whole game. So, yeah, patience is the key. Shifting the opposition, not getting frustrated, not taking too many touches, moving the opposition, always forward running and trying to put the ball in the areas you want to arrive in, which I thought we did a lot better in the last 20 minutes.
Right, amazing. Right, let's head down to pitch side. Here is Braden and Nikki Weaver.
So it's full time, and it was a comfortable City win in the end, wasn't it, Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, 2-0 in the end doesn't tell the whole story. There was a few bit of nail-biting going on in their second half. The 1-0 at half-time, the second goal was always going to be massive. Thankfully, it come for City. Marc Guehi getting his first goal for the club, but, Salford defended really, really well. They had the chance themselves. James Trafford's had to make a brilliant save in the first half, a really good block in the second half as well. So 2-0 seems comfortable in the end, but it doesn't quite tell the whole story.
Yeah, of course, and just as you spoke about Guehi, we spoke about Kusanov and Elaine before the game. Guehi obviously comes off the bench, gets his first goal. He's really fitting into the Manchester City team. It's like he's been here all his life.
Yeah, I mean, I think both, January, Semenyo as well, when he come on, looked really lively. You're getting two there, Marc Guehi, obviously, top centre-half. Semenyo as well. You're getting two players there that are Premier League ready. They've come straight out of one Premier League team into City's team, and they were ready to go. So two fantastic signings. And yeah, it'd be nice for Marc Guehi to get, after the disappointment of him losing at Macclesfield with Crystal Palace a few weeks ago, it'd be nice for him to get into the fifth round and score the goal as well.
As you say, I think the main thing, no matter what the result is that you're through to the next round. City still competing on all fronts in all competitions, and we're right up there, aren't we? Into, say the next round of the FA Cup. Looking on to guess the next challenge now.
Absolutely, and it's a game that everyone expected City to win. They've obviously won in the end, so a huge credit to Salford. They played a massive part in that game. They can be really proud of their performance. They certainly didn't want a repeat of the 8-0 last year, which was never going to happen when the game started. But after 6 minutes going 1-0 down, for them to stay in the game for as long as they did, credit to them. And you could just sense there was a little bit of frustration when you looked at Pep's body language. You could sense the atmosphere. I don't think they ever really thought the result was in danger, but it was just nice to get that second goal, because certainly we didn't want extra time.
No,
we've already seen West Ham earlier on in the day go to extra time. We certainly didn't want to see that. And the main thing of today was getting into the next round, which we've done, and we're still fighting strong on all four fronts.
Of course, and Salford, you're giving them credit there, and they deserve it. As you say, going 1-0 down 6 minutes in, it's a setback. It's completely against the game plan. But they stayed in it. I saw at the end they were having a bit of a team meeting in the middle of the pitch. The manager obviously will be happy with his players. They managed to keep themselves in the game, really. And as you say, they created a few decent chances.
Yeah, they got a lot of corners every time they got a throw. They didn't waste a chance to get it in the box. They didn't try and play out or anything. They tried to play to their strengths, didn't want to sort of give City any chances. And City didn't really create too many chances. But huge credit to Salford. They defended really well. Bank of 5, bank of 4. They all played the part, and City couldn't break them down until late in the game, and ultimately it was really, you could see the players were cramping up. They worked so hard out of possession today, Salford. Huge credit to them, but ultimately City have come out 2-0 winners.
Yeah, and keeping a lot of possession as well, City. It must be frustrating as a Salford player because you're constantly shifting back and forth and being tormented, really, aren't you?
Absolutely. The hardest thing for a team is when you've not got the ball, and they didn't have the ball for the vast majority of the game. Well, they'd have known that before the game. They defended really well. The distances were good. They didn't let players like Cherky and Foden get into those little pockets in between the lines. Cherky did towards the end when they started to tire. But yeah, listen, it was all about getting a result today. We've got the result, and we're in the hat for the next round.
In the hat for the next round. So what's your thoughts for the rest of the season? Of course, we're close behind Arsenal, still in the Champions League, in the final of the Carabao, into the next round of the FA Cup. What are you thinking?
Well, I remember it was only a few weeks ago that we surrendered the 2-goal lead at Tottenham, and everyone's saying, "Oh, that's the title done," but it's certainly not. And there's loads and loads of football to be played. We're fighting strong on all four fronts. We're getting to the business end of the season, so each game, gets bigger and bigger now. But we've seen City do it many, many times where they go on a really, really good run. Today was a little bit of dip in performance, but still got the result, got the clean sheet. So yeah, from that Tottenham game when it was 2-2 and it was all a little bit doom and gloom, it's a lot better now with final of the Carabao Cup and fifth round of the FA Cup, Champions League, only 4 points behind Arsenal in the Premier League. So yeah, it could be a really memorable season for us.
Still all to play for, isn't it? I mean, Les Chapman said he thinks the quadruple's on, which we've been, that's a statement and a half, and I'm not sure, but you never know. You never know.
Pep will be just taking every game. I know it's a bit of a cliche, take every game as it comes. We're in one cup final. A couple more games will be in another cup final, hopefully, depending on what the draw is. But yeah, it's there's all to play for, and it's the business end of the season now.
Of course.
And, whatever happens, regarding Premier League, FA Champions, City have been there and done it from various different positions. Arsenal, for example, haven't. So yeah, we've got the experience, and the manager will really be. You can just sense in his press conferences before games now. This is the part of the season where things really matter. Made some really good signings, 2 really good signings in January. So yeah, lots to look forward to between now and the end of the season.
Definitely, it's like time to step it up almost, business end. And Nikki, obviously you've played in cup competitions. Have you got any memories you can share with us? Any cup day memories?
In fact, to be honest, my last ever game for City was FA Cup quarter-final against Blackburn. Way back in 2007. We lost that one 2-1, but 2-0, sorry. But yeah, that was my last ever game. But yeah, listen, the FA Cup's been good to City. I think it's been the last 4 finals. I've been lucky enough to go to Wembley a few times as well. So yeah, it's we don't call it the Etihad South for nothing, do we?
Well, thank you very much. Into the next round. Hopefully City, as you say, can start to compete on all fronts in all competitions. And Nikki, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Back to you guys up in the studio.
Thank you very much, chaps. Very, very solid conversation there. I didn't think they were going to stop. Right, I've been picking my brain. Ben, how do you and Pep, the first team in the academy, almost work side by side? I'm trying to figure out how that relationship looks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean it's a daily thing in terms of so whenever they train, we train. So we're always supporting them for training sessions in terms of whatever they need player-wise. So whether that's a Ryan, a Floyd who's on the bench today, whatever they need to top their numbers up, first of all, is kind of the first daily conversation. And then what are their training requirements in terms of what do they need that day? Is it a game preparation thing? And then we might sort of be much more involved as a squad to try and help them prepare for a game. So you have that side of it, which is the daily piece, and then probably a more medium to longer term one on individual players and how they're doing. What does their program look like? So obviously Ryan's been involved here today. One of the probably conversations next week will be what does his week look like. Obviously first team don't play till next Saturday. Will he be involved in that game, etc. And then, yeah, like any relationship really, then the constant communication around how's he training, how's he doing, what's this, what's that. So picking the brains, and then from our side, probably going the other way, maybe just more, it makes sense to align in terms of playing styles and how do you work with the ball, without the ball, so that when players do move from our group to their group, for example, without the ball, the structure is very similar. So that they haven't got a number one deal with moving into the first team group, but also they can understand how it is they do things tactically.
Would you be switching up what you do? Because many years ago, it's like the academy side would play a quite standard 4-3-3 kind of thing. Now, for example, we're doing the split strikers. Would you be incorporating that into training for the young lads to learn the system in case they step up to the first team?
Yeah, I think how we would look at that is, you're completely right. I think for a long time we had the kind of 4-3-3 model. and from that, you learnt all the principles. Now we're a little bit more flexible from a formation point of view, and certainly from us as the 21s and being the closest to the first team, we would, at the end of last year when the first team used this formation for the first time, we used it as well.
Yeah.
And probably wouldn't have used it.
Is that like a directive, or is it a decision collectively?
It's not a directive, but it just makes sense, you know. And then it comes up in conversations as to why. Obviously, you also need to have the players to be able to do it. I think we spoke beforehand that at the moment it tends to suit us with the personnel we have available. You know, in previous teams it maybe wouldn't have been so obvious to do that, but it suits the personnel you've got. So obviously we still have to have that view on it as well. You know, we wouldn't do it if it meant putting players in positions where they were maybe never going to play for the manager or in their career. But it makes no sense to have no alignment and no, you know, continuity, both from whatever it is, behaviours, tactical, this kind of things. It's good to be as aligned as we can.
What's it been like working with Pep? Like, what have you learned in terms of a coaching standpoint for yourself?
Amazing. I think when you're fortunate enough to go into this job, the 21s, you become naturally closer to the first team and the coaching staff. And from a learning and development point of view, you know, it's the best coaching badge you can get in the world, to be able to see it close up and to see, you know, how his mind works, how they train, how, you know, tactically you look to change things. You know, all of that side's amazing, and then also like maybe the basics as well that you don't sometimes realise that are so important in terms of the energy he gives every single day, the enthusiasm, the relentlessness of someone who's been in the job for 10 years, and it's a tough job. You know, 3 games a week, all the travel, how meticulous he prepares for one game, analyses the next one, reviews it. The cycle is, you know, exhaustion. So it's unbelievable to see that close up, and also to kind of motivate you that, like, if this guy can work this hard, then, you know, you need to step up.
You've worked close with him for obviously a while now, and I'm sure all the managers in the Premier League are meticulous. I'm sure they all work hard, and I'm sure they're enthusiastic. In your opinion, what is it that makes Pep, you know, obviously achieve so much? Because there is something obviously about him somewhere that makes him just achieve, because he wins everywhere he goes, and he gets the best out of so many players. Is there a certain trait that you think that he has that makes him stand out?
I think clearly, you know, you can tell that tactically he's a genius. You know, probably as good as any manager that's ever walked the planet. I think is insane. But also the way he manages people, I think is unbelievable. The way, you know, he can deliver a speech or just at the right time and hit the right notes. Whether that, you know, someone who needs some love, and, you know, he makes that person feel $1 million when they walk out the room, or maybe someone, you know, goes out the room with an angry head on, but he knows in 90 minutes' time he's going to get the best out of them. I think he's special at that. He's got that feel of...
He reads people really well.
Of what the group need and what individuals need. And just his energy and his enthusiasm and kind of mentality on the training pitch when he's working is also, I think, you know, it's a wow factor when you go, whew. Like, you know, if he's like this, then you have to be as a player.
You touched on it a bit before, 3 games a week. We've got a rare 2-game week, Newcastle up next. How would you prepare for that yourself?
I think it's massive, this gap. So I think that's why finishing the top 8 Champions League was so important, because the schedule has been, it's crazy what the schedule for the top clubs has been in terms of, I don't think we've had a midweek off since pre-Christmas, and if you didn't finish top 8 Champions League, that's going on for sort of 14, 16 weeks, which from an injury perspective is just, it's impossible. You know, I think Newcastle are feeling the effects of it at the moment, and it can ruin your season. So I think the opportunity to recover a couple more players, I think they'll give the lads maybe a couple of days off at the start of the week, because obviously in that time where you're playing 3 games a week, days off are an absolute premium, because you have to recover the next day. Probably just a couple of days away to clear people's heads, and then really focus in for, like, you get into that business end of the season. And hopefully by Newcastle next week, I think we'll probably have 90-95% of the squad fit, which gives you a chance to take on 3 games a week. You know, I think we've had moments in the last 6-8 weeks where it's been really hard, and we spoke before about Bernardo and Erling, like what they've had to put in has been huge. So I think we're in a really good place. I think, like I say, a couple of days off, and then you know, allows you to prepare the Newcastle game as a coach would want. It gives you a little bit more time than at the moment. You're literally getting one session, 30 minutes on the training pitch, which you can't go too hard because they've played 2 days before. So the next 2 weeks, we have 2 clear weeks, 2 Premier League games. I think that's exactly what we need, and hopefully you'll see the benefits from the performances.
Stephen, Newcastle again, obviously played them in the Carabao Cup here not so long ago. First half, unbelievable. Second half, maybe not so much. How do we eradicate second halves like that and put a performance like the first half?
I'm going to be honest with you, Liam. I don't think I have the answers. If I did, I'd be getting paid millions of pounds to coach his team too. No, I presume, I'm going to guess, you know, Pep said he has his theories and I think he understands why. And from my perspective, I guess that, you know, the standards are so high, and this is a really new Manchester City side still. You know, the churn of legends has been absolutely absurd over the past couple of years. You know, so many great players going, and I don't think there's a team in the world that could survive half their squad being changed and expect to keep the same consistency and focus. You know, I think obviously there's, you know, when the other day when Kusanov went off and Ruben Diaz came on, it was obviously disappointing for Kusanov, but I don't think it's a coincidence that, you know, Diaz on the pitch, the team looked a lot more solid, not because he's necessarily a better player than Kusanov or anything like that, just because he's been there, you know, been there and done that before. And I think that experience, being one of the older heads, I think helped, you know, City sort of see it through at Anfield. And I think as well in the second half against Fulham, we didn't play great, but we didn't actually struggle at any point either, I would say, in the second half. It was dull, but it wasn't panic stations. So I do wonder if getting these experienced heads back, like Ruben Diaz and John Stones just around the dressing room, Rodri on the pitch, Bernardo Silva on the pitch, Haaland, Foden, people like that have been there. I wonder if that'll help. And of course, you know, a week of rest where players can just, you know, put the feet up a little bit and then come back with clear minds. Yeah, and really make a plan for the second half, just to make sure, you know, the senior players are there. This is what we do. This is how we approach a situation. And I'm sure a lot of it's just belief, you know. And once Nico Gonzalez and Mateus Nunes and Nico O'Reilly and these people who are relatively new to being first-team regulars, once they've survived Anfield and they've had steady second halves, I'm sure that'll come natural to them, basically. So I presume it is just conviction or confidence to commit to the plan, because I don't think it's fitness. I do agree. We were chatting about that earlier. I'm not sure necessarily it's that. I think it's just them sort of trying to find how to react to situations that are new to them still, because, you know, they're Manchester City and teams will look for a different way to get at them in the second half. And I think a lot of these guys are relatively new to the Premier League, which has changed exponentially over the past 18 to 24 months. And I think it's just that. I think it's just teething issues, really, for the squad that has been vastly changed. And, you know, Newcastle has been good for us recently, actually, you know, and fingers crossed we can carry the weekend, because Arsenal, they're playing midweek and you presume they'll win, and we've got to keep up that pressure.
Stephen, thank you very much for coming on. Ben, thank you very much. Best of luck for the rest of the season, and everyone at home, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.